Thank you very much.
Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
Not sure if I should be thankful for this crowd or be terrified. You see, I hold 2 degrees. I hold a degree as Master's in Counseling, which means I'm supposed to listen a lot. I also hold a Master's in Divinity, which means I'm supposed to talk a lot.
Oh boy.
So I'm kind of caught in between on this one. But I'm going to try to give you guys as good of an introduction to what you're going to be experiencing as possible, because, to put it bluntly, being a mental health care worker, like any other first responder, like any other healthcare related field, is not easy. And yes, we are talking about you being laypersons in this field. But it comes with a ton of responsibility and quite a few bumps in the road along the way. So before I begin, I want to basically loosen everything up, because we're going to get really tight really fast, and take a little time to market a new ministry I'm starting. It's called currently Zoom Arrows. What it is a center shot ministry. If anyone's ever heard of center shot, it is a archery instruction ministry that uses this, the life bow, to teach the gospel.
Nice.
Now, due to funding of how we managed to get the equipment,
I'm having a hard time hearing you back here.
sorry,
That's all right, I'm just gonna
Move up.
tell you.
too much coffee. Now, due to where the funding came from, I have promised not to teach the gospel everywhere I go, just to places that invite me to do it. So, there's always something in the contract, right?
Right.
But if you want to start an archery instruction program in your youth group, in your church, let your church know I'm looking for venues, is the primary thing. I have the equipment, I am certified, I just need the venues. Now, we're coming up on Easter season, it also means that I'm getting ready for Easter Cantata over in Denver. We're coming up on Easter season, which means I'm also having to deal with family. We're coming up on spring break, which means I have to deal with a kid next week that's going to be bouncing around off the walls. Everybody has stress. Everybody came here feeling just a tiny bit overwhelmed by what's going on right now. Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
it is hard.
I am.
As
I got enough.
a layperson in this ministry of mental health care, the very first priority you need is to your own health. Very first. As a counselor, I was taught very first thing, first class, very first thing I was going to have to do was get a counselor. It's like, excuse me? They said, you have baggage. Doesn't matter who you are, how great of a life you've had, you have baggage. Get a counselor. Identify the baggage. And a few of us still in the class were like, excuse me? And she said, okay, fine. Get a counselor so you can mimic what they're doing. And every single one of them got a counselor, and they had baggage. They were shocked. They shouldn't have been. Let me give you an example just from here. Did you know twice as many people will go to their church, usually directly to their preacher, and ask for help for mental health? Twice as many people then go to their own primary physician. And it gets better than that. Twice as many will go to their primary physician than seek a mental health care professional. Period. Now that puts a lot of preachers in a tight spot, because there are a lot of churches out there that have absolutely no counseling anymore because of the high cost of liability. Simple as that. Gone are the days when you could go to just about any church and get premarital counseling. That's an unfortunate truth. In Montezuma County, 33% of the population has actively sought mental health care. 33%. Approximately 840 out of our population get it through publicly funded services, about half as much as paid by insurance. In other words, for some strange reason, they can't get insurance that actually pays for it, if they got insurance at all. And this, by the way, reflects twice the state average. There is currently a approximately 524 to 1 ratio of residents to mental health care providers, if you count all those psychiatrists and psychologists that there may or may not be. And on average, people in Montezuma County report having an average of 4.6 poor mental health days a month. A month. This county even has a higher suicide rate than the state or nation. It has a higher poverty rate than the state or nation. It has a higher homelessness rate than national. In other words, Montezuma County is in trouble. Has been. So what you're embarking on is huge. And I don't want to put it lightly, it will affect your mental health. As an example, I'd like to show you a small video. It's dramatized, of course, giving you an example of a case that you could come across. So maybe I can find my...
To get an idea of what her level of safety versus threat is. Well, actually, we were, I asked you to come back and talk for a few minutes because you had been, in our group today. You seemed kind of stressed and it sounds like you got a lot of stuff going on, but I guess what concerned me the most was you had made some comments like, I don't even know why I'm here or what my purpose is and that kind of thing. So I just wanted.
Don't you dare crash on me.
Just sort of checking with you, see what's going on.
I've just been having a really hard time at home recently, and I don't know, it just feels like there's not a lot of point in living. Like my parents are thinking about getting divorced, and that's really upsetting to me because that's like my family life, and it'll change everything that I'm dealing with right now. And I don't know. Even though I don't want them to get divorced, but at the same time they're
Okay, well it was. Connected. Okay, Wi-Fi isn't quite working, so I guess we'll skip that. Sorry. Let's see, where are the light switches? Sorry about that.
You like me to turn the light
both
on?
my parents
there goes.
get annoyed with me all the time, and they have
If you stop and let it load, because
I
that's
just
the
feel like
buffer.
they don't love me, and I don't feel like anyone really loves me. I don't feel like I'm important to anyone right now.
So when did you find out about this divorce
ago.
Monty, she knows how to fix this.
Okay.
So it's not a fix, but it's buffering. The spinning
Could you
of a
turn the
hamster is buffering.
switch?
So if you put it,
I changed the website, literally. Anyway, but if you could refer to this while I start off, I'd like to explain exactly what y'all are embarking on as mental health coaches. And that is your description, mental health coach. Now, first of all, somebody asked Terry apparently if this was going to have some kind of a certification at the end. Let me explain this to you. What I'm trying to summarize is this. Okay, this is the certification. This is not. All right? And in fact, I'm actually finishing up on one also on suicide prevention. Okay, so these classes are not small. They are online, and I will point out, free. Okay, I don't know if I mentioned that last time. There is a scholarship available. That's what they call it. Well, a scholarship available, but the scholarship pays for the whole thing, and they have not stopped giving it out. So obviously, they want mental health coaches out there. And so what I'm presenting on is what I learned here, which is how to produce mental health care coaches. Okay? So if there's anyone who wants to be certified, as well as certifiable, okay, make sure to get me your email address. I will send you the link, or your cell phone number. Either way, I'll send you the link. And my address, well, my own email address is on the back of the note sheet. All right. All right. So, what are you? You are gatekeepers. You see, in order to address this statistical issue of everyone going to a church or other organization rather than their doctor, and everyone going to their doctor rather than seeking professional mental help, that makes you guys the front lines. The absolute forefront of this problem. You need to be able to tell whom you can help and who needs more than you can provide. Does that make sense? So you'll recognize individuals with possible mental health care issues. You will refer as necessary. You will relate, that's the empathy, in order to form a connection. And hopefully, with all of that in mind, your goal is to restore that individual to a state in which they can keep on living. Now, in order to do this correctly, accurately, one of the things you're going to need to do is get out there and find out who the professionals are. Who do they take? What insurance? What are their personal likes and dislikes about clients? Okay? Take them out for coffee. Bring them coffee. Actually talk to the professionals. That way you can refer without going through the phone. I keep going to the phone book. Without going through Google to somebody you don't know. And refer to somebody who will not take your client. You need to know who these people are.
In other words.
So do keep your own directory of providers who you know will work with you as well as your client. Now, this is where you become counselors. You have someone come up to you. They will say that I don't feel good about something. I feel like I need to, I feel. There's an automatic right there. I feel. What are they feeling? Where are they at in life? To whom have they told this to? To whom do they trust? Love. Are responsible for. Get all this information. This is information about who this person is, how this person thinks. What have they done so far about this feeling, about these thought patterns? And remember, you're not talking about being sympathetic to what they're going through. You're talking about getting into who they are, being empathetic. There's a big difference there. Sympathy often will turn people away rather than bring them closer. Believe it or not. Now, the next few notes I have on this, you're going to find a little strange. And it's because I'm an existential therapist. I like to know everything, inside and out, about a client. Because I want to know their story, from their perspective. Because only their perspective can tell me exactly what this person is going through. Who do they believe they are? To their friends, to their family, to God. What does that mean to them? Where do they believe their life is going? These are deep thoughts, right? By the way, never ask the question, why? Never. Anyone know why?
They may not know,
They may not know. Why is a very complex to answer question. It doesn't matter why you use that word. It doesn't matter how you use why. It's still going to come up with the brain going, I don't know. I don't know what I'm thinking. So never ask the question why. Why is the one question that will always get you the blank stare. Or, at best, completely a separate turn on the road, different answer than you're actually asking the question about. Those are the two things you're going to end up with a why. Don't ask why. Ask what, ask where, ask who, ask how. Never ask why. And of course, I also put down how do the issues present in the client? In other words, how does the client see themselves? How do they see their symptoms? And what is a client seeking out of getting help, seeking help? Unfortunately, for a lot of people, the very first thing that you're going to run into when it comes to suicidality is permission, is what the client will be seeking. Forgiveness is what the client will be seeking. That's an unfortunate truth. And you will have to deal with it accordingly. But they are seeking you out specifically because they want a connection. They don't feel a connection anymore to anybody. Yes?
Sorry, what was that second one? Christian and then what?
Huh?
Forgiveness.
Forgiveness.
Okay, thanks.
But they are seeking you out because what they want is a connection they don't feel, they don't see in their lives. They want a connection that they have no idea how to get. And that's where you come in. That is where you are the peer counselor, you are the friend. You are the mentor, right? Mental health coach, mentor. You're a listener, which means you have to determine what to say next. Keep them talking. Keep evaluating. Keep digging deeper, but not to the point of harm. That's the hard part. I have a client right now who they don't like talking about their past. Why? Because every time they have, even back when the trauma happened, nobody believed her. So why bother saying it now? Mentality. She can't break out of that. She knows she can't break out of that. She believes she can't break out of that. And therefore, she's stuck. So we keep needling it, picking at it. And someday, I hope soon, we'll make more progress. But she at least understands now that these thoughts she has against all of humanity are just in her head. In other words, the thinking side now has something to grab onto, because the emotional side's been doing all the work. Okay. That being said, how many of you have actually been approached by anyone this remotely sounds like?
Remotely what?
Sounds like. Someone seeking help, seeking a connection, seeking something. All right. I'd like you to take a few moments and talk amongst yourselves at your table about those particular people. Remember, confidentiality, nothing that identifies the person. Okay? Take a few moments and talk about it amongst your table.
Her level of safety versus threat is. Well, actually, we were, I asked you to come back and talk for a few minutes because you had been, in our group today, you seemed kind of stressed and it sounds like you got a lot of stuff going on, but I guess what concerned me the most was you made some comments like, I don't know why I'm here or what my purpose is and that kind of thing. So I just wanted to sort of check in with you, see what's going on.
Yeah, I've just been having a really hard time at home recently, and I don't know, it just feels like there's not a lot of point in living. Like my parents are thinking about getting divorced, and that's really upsetting to me because that's like my family life. And it'll change everything that I'm dealing with right now. And I don't know. Even though I don't want them to get divorced, but at the same time, both of my parents get annoyed with me all the time, and I have fights with them, and I just feel like they don't love me, and I don't feel like anyone really loves me. I don't feel like I'm important to anyone right now, so. I don't know.
So when did you find out about this divorce?
A couple weeks ago. I mean, it seemed like something like this was going to happen for a while, but
Clearly, she's feeling pretty hopeless, and I want to get just a little bigger idea of how this thing has evolved by the question I just asked.
they told us, my siblings and I, like about 3 weeks ago.
So it's been kind of brewing, but kind of came to a head.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how about your siblings? How they handling this thing?
I don't know. We don't really get along very well. Like, they're a lot younger than I am, and so I feel like I have to like take care of everything for them, and I've been having to be kind of reassuring with my parents. So like fighting with one another, and I don't know, it's putting a lot of pressure on me, and like I can't be their parent.
This is an important piece because Ashley feels hopeless and worthless. You might notice that her family really is relying on her, maybe over-relying on her to help with the kids and even providing emotional support to the family. And this is an important protective factor. Even though she's not feeling very worthwhile, she sees herself as being in this role.
It just,
So you're pretty stressed out.
yeah.
Yeah. Now, you were talking about the no point in living, that sort of thing. Have you had thoughts about wanting to die or wanting to kill yourself or anything like that?
Yeah. I don't really think that I would like ever kill myself, but I just don't see any point in living most of the time.
At this point, we are moving into a more formal assessment of her state of mind about suicide, which is the most important place at this point to be, and not to get too sidetracked by trying to get into the nitty-gritty of the family situation or about taking care of her siblings. At this point, as a lay helper, I just want to make sure that she's safe, and if she needs any more help beyond what we can provide here in our ministry. So it's important to stay kind of focused here about whether she may need some more help. Since hearing about this,
Yeah.
have you ever felt this way before?
Not as badly as as intensely as I am now. I've, every now and then, like throughout high school and stuff, sometimes I get kind of down on myself, but it just...
Have you ever tried to hurt yourself or
No,
anything like that?
no. I've like imagined things sometimes, but I've never actually like done anything.
So imagine things. Is that the same thing as planning it, or just...
No, it's like about like stepping in front of a bus or something. Like there not being a bus anywhere around for me to do it.
Right.
But just like,
Imagine
what would happen if
I did
like
that.
this happened to me and I died?
This is an important part of the assessment in two ways. One, she doesn't have an organized plan, and she doesn't have intention of hurting herself or trying to kill herself. And she doesn't seem to want to die as a way of solving her problems. Very importantly, she doesn't have any history of suicidal behavior. So this decreases her risk for any immediate threat or danger. And the focus now should be on just making sure we get her linked into someone who can help her deal with these issues over and beyond what we're able to provide for her. Okay. So here, in this last sort of window of time, since hearing about this with your parents, have you made any plans or thought of any way that you seriously go about doing this? Or?
I haven't made any plans, no. It's just kind of something that's been on my mind a lot, and thinking about a lot.
Now, are you seeing a counselor or anything at this point, or
No.
would you be open to that?
Yeah, I think so, if, might be able to help.
Yeah, I mean, we have a couple different counselors, and we'll get a chance. I'll get their names for you, but I think there's there's some that can be really helpful, and it certainly can help you sort of navigate this stuff. Because when you have, things happen to you and you start feeling like, what's the point, what's the use, and you start feeling kind of helpless and hopeless and stuff, that it's usually good to talk to somebody. And the kind of groups and stuff that we have are, they're meant to be encouraging and sort of growth promoting. But if you get, in a bad spot sometimes, in addition to what we're doing, it might be good to check in with somebody and sort of help them navigate you through it. You okay with doing that?
Yeah.
All right. I guess, a couple different things that would help. You're living with your parents or
Yeah.
still at home? So you're still under their insurance?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we'll want to look at that because that helps us sort of help you figure out who would be a good fit for you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then if anything changes, before you get in with a counselor and you're feeling worse, and you feel like you're not safe, not feeling safe, meaning like you think more seriously about hurting yourself or anything like that, you give us a call.
Okay.
You okay with that?
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's do that, and then we'll catch you next week. But when we step out here, we'll make sure we get you some names and get you set up with somebody.
Okay.
Thanks. One of the things there is making sure we get her plugged into somebody, of having resources available to you so you can easily plug people in. And also asking people about what their resources are. If they do have insurance, that'd be nice to plug them into professionals. If they don't, then you need to also have some resources to be able to plug people into counseling where that's affordable, that may not be professionals, but the folks are under supervision by professionals. And to secure her commitment to that and willingness to do it is an important part of just doing good ministry. So in this instance,
Okay. Yeah. So again, this takes a lot of asking the right questions. Are you going to get it right all the time?
Nope.
Of course not. But it does help to be able to at least identify what information you're seeking from that person. For suicidality, do they have the means? Do they have a plan? Okay. In other words, what is the immediate danger here? In fact, here's something you might not know. I don't know about Utah, I don't know about Arizona, I don't know about New Mexico. But in Colorado, mandatory reporting is everybody's law, not just the professionals.
Yes.
That means you meet a person and they are showing signs, direct signs, that they are an immediate threat of health to self or others. As a lay counselor, you have somebody coming up to you and saying, "I'm so mad, I just want to kill this guy." Okay, how do you have means? What's the motive? Do you have a plan? If they can say anything about any of those things, there is a chance, yeah, your next call is going to be 911. Now, that being said, what's the ethical way, the Christian way of doing this? Anybody?
Doing what when you say this?
Reporting.
Letting them know that you have to report it and letting them know that you can be with me when I report it, but I do have to report it. So I didn't participate or not, but I'm going to.
Exactly. Try to get their consent. You are in danger. You are a threat to self or others. How would you feel if we could go to the hospital and have you examined? Is that okay? Can we talk to the minister about this? How about a counselor? Do you know a good counselor we can talk to about this? You see, either way, I have to say something to someone about this. It's required of me. I'm sorry. But you are currently, again, a threat to self or others. That means I have to report it, even if you don't agree to this. So how about a hospital stay for time? Yes?
But in that same vein,
Yes.
shouldn't there be like a threat assessment, like a 9 out of 10, an 8 out of 10, a 7 out of 10?
That was what was missing here.
Pretty high. Okay.
Yeah, that's what was missing here. A professional would have done the full assessment. You are doing it basically off your gut. Okay? How do you feel about death right now? Scale of 0 to 10, if you really want to go that way. 0 to 10. How do you feel about death right now? How good do you feel about it? How do you feel about life right now? 0 to 10.
These are questions that you would ask them?
That's questions you can ask them. But again, even on those type of assessments, you are going by your gut. You are going by what the Holy Spirit tells you. You're going by anything but one thing. You are not telling yourself it's okay. Because it's not okay. This person has just threatened themselves or others. It's not okay. There is a temptation to keep it private. I'll give you an example. It's state news, it's national news, so I doubt, there's a church, there was a church over in Denver that was involved in a major scandal because what happened was the youth pastor got one of the youth pregnant. Yeah. And it was reported to the lead pastor. And the board decided to sweep it under the rug. It was never reported. When it was found out via a divorce going through with the youth's parents, when it became public, the church dissolved. They couldn't keep it stable anymore because of the lie. Keeping something that big secret is never a good idea. Never. So don't take it upon yourself, which again goes back to self-care. You also don't want to do this because of self-care, because you are the one that is leading this. By the way, how many of you have a counselor? Someone you talk to?
Michael.
Okay. There's a lot of hands not going up. There's a lot of hands going up, and there's a lot of hands not going up. Okay? I don't care if it's your minister. I don't care if it's an actual professional counselor. I don't care if it's your childhood best friend on the phone. Okay? You need somebody to talk to about stuff like this, the heavy stuff that you will be dealing with. I'm not kidding. And mine, unfortunately, has got to be the most obnoxious person I could possibly talk to about it. I'm the father of one. I have one daughter. She's adopted. She's currently 9 years old, turning on 13 faster than I really want. I adopted her because she is also the granddaughter of my supervisor slash classmate from counseling slash, yes, counselor. Oh yeah. First time we met was in class. First time we counseled each other was in class. First time we decided we didn't like each other was in class. She tells it like it is. Doesn't hold back. I tell her like it is and she lets me have it. So yeah, be wary, guys. You really do need somebody. Even if that person is obnoxious. All right, let's continue. So I want to go ahead and finish off that mandatory reporting part. That is, again, a legal obligation. Confidentiality, absolute requirement. Confidentiality breaks only in the case of potential harm to self or others. And it depends on the degree of potential. Do they have means? Do they have a plan? Do they have the want?
A what?
Want. Want. Or need is what they'll probably say. I need to get myself out of the way of my parents. I need to get myself out of the way of my wife. I need it for the insurance. Whatever the case may be. Oh, by the way, there's a myth out there that life insurance will not pay upon death by suicide. Not necessarily true. So people will still believe that because their life insurance might just cover it. Consider that. So just because they say it's for the life insurance is not a reason to not take them seriously. They are serious. You can't talk them out of it just by saying, oh, they won't pay for it. Because in their head, they already believe they can. And that's where it matters. Not in your head, their head.
Where the emotion is taking over and the thinking is not happening.
Does not matter how delusional they sound. They have a belief. You have to work within that belief. That is their reality. Nothing will break that reality without force. Yes?
I just want to back up. So say I call 911,
Yes.
then what happens?
Okay. So in the case of suicide or possible homicide, right?
Somebody who's seriously thinking about suicide.
Think about suicide. Okay. The mandatory reporting requires a 72-hour hold in the hospital.
And would that person be residents?
Not anymore.
Can I talk from experience?
Go ahead.
Called the police, reported it, they came out, person said, I don't know what he's talking about, they told me we can't do anything about it. We have no proof.
Don't tell me. Local police.
Huh?
Right to refuse.
These are the same local police who railroaded a good friend of mine into jail. Okay? On not just circumstantial evidence, faked
But,
evidence.
so we then, but we had the same thing happen in Grand Junction. So, I mean, what the police have said is under the new federal guidelines, because of protection in that, unless there's proof, they can't do anything.
That's not true.
And even when up in Montana, when I worked for the state, Same thing there.
Yeah, that's not true,
They have to have the proof.
That's actually so much liability on their part, you could have sued. Yes?
So, personal experience, I had to be one of my patients.
Could I get you to stand up because we
I'm
cannot
sorry.
hear you?
Personal experience, I had to take one of my young pediatric patients. In active suicide, she came to me in an overdose. I pushed her over to the ER. She was released within an hour, maybe. A couple weeks later, same
Yep.
thing happened. Access came in, did what they do, and again, she was released. So this is not, and this was probably the 12th time.
Nope. This is supposed to be a requirement, guys. They can get sued for this. Yes?
Can I interject?
Yeah.
Okay, this is why the Ashley Project was created. Actually, Ashley was seen by our mental health. She told them I'm suicidal, they agreed. They gave her medication, they sent her home and said, come back and see us in 10 days. She made 5. This is why you guys are here as lay people. Because we know our resources are stretched. And unless they have something solid, they're really not going to act. We know that. This is where we're going to come in. And this is where we're going to, if we have to, take them to Farmington to see someone today. Because they can't be seen in Cortez. Our services, and Monty knows it because he's a provider, they're overwhelmed. And, you know, I truly believe they're all doing the very best that they can do. But no, that is why you're each here today. Because you are going to be the person that makes a difference when they fall through the cracks of the system that we have that's overwhelmed. So yeah, there's problems and we're not going to solve those problems today, but what we can do is arm ourselves so that we don't have so many Ashleys.
Amen. Cemetery line. You mentioned the fact that there are services available.
Okay, there are services available. Okay, did want to make this a promotional on the Ashley Project, but in the middle of your table, there's some information on the Ashley Project with all of the board of directors' phone numbers on it. We do text. We do have drivers that will help drive someone from here to Durango to Farmington to get them help today. So know that that is a resource. Just cut that little piece of the paper out that has all 3 of our phone numbers on it. We are really, thank you Jesus, been good so far at getting back to you within an hour, letting you know whether or not we can meet your need or whether or not we have a driver available for you. We do pay the drivers out of the Ashley Project to make that trip, but they're experienced, strong Christians that want to be a part of the solution, and it's obvious everyone in this room has made a choice to be a part of the solution in our community. So we do have transportation available. If you are a person that would like to be transportation, contact me. I'm the Terry Lynn on the list if you haven't figured it out by now. Contact me. I'll have you in waiting, because sometimes when somebody says, yeah, I'll do it, oh, something came up, they can't. So I got to go to the next person. Will you be the next person? Or are you going to be able to call me and say, hey, I got a person in need, we can help you, but we can all cooperate to get needs met in our community, even driving people out of the community.
So do they have a mandatory 72-hour, do they have a mandatory 72-hour hold in New Mexico? Is that why we're taking them to Farmington? Or
No,
is it better?
it's not a mandatory. If mandatory holds, you almost have to have a willing person, okay?
Right.
So that era of putting Uncle Joe away so he won't embarrass you at the wedding has ended. And that's why we're counting on you.
Now, here's the bad part, okay?
You tell
The,
me
the
about it.
reason mandatory hold is no longer being actually administered is simply because of what you just said. We don't want to deal with it. We have too much to deal with it already. You guys deal with it. We're not going to deal with it.
You're saying the business says that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't get me wrong. Hospitals are businesses. Police department, it's a business. Okay? They don't want to deal with it. They would rather not deal with domestic violence, for crying out loud. If they could help it, they wouldn't. Yes?
Somebody back here was asking about Farmington, and that's just because of availability of resources.
Right. That's exactly it. The Navajo Nation happens to have more resources than we do. Scary thought for the day.
Right.
That's how few resources we have here in Montezuma County. And if we have to be the ones doing the 72-hour hold, so be it. Okay? I'm not volunteering, by the way. The reason being, I can't stay awake that long. No, I'm serious. I'm serious. I have long COVID. And so just standing here for this time of lecture is probably going to send me cross-eyed. But that being said, yes, my cell phone number, by the way, please keep that private, is on the back of the note sheet that I gave you guys. Do use it to let me know if you need any help. Okay? Mainly by text. That's the easiest way to get hold of me on that phone, is by text. Okay? I will check the voicemail, of course, but yeah, texting, that's the easiest way to get hold of me. Yes?
Many times, Monty, these people have no money
Yes.
to buy their medications.
Yes.
The Ashley Project, again, I'm going to put that in there again. We just helped a gentleman over at Portland to get his medication because he had just moved here. So his insurance hadn't shifted over to the state yet. If you have somebody who's off their medication and they are acting suicidal, see if we can work together and we can get that medication to that person. We can get that done. Because that seems to be a big mental health issue with suicidal people. Huge. I mean, medication, they go off, they are not the same person. I'm sure you people know that already. They're not the same person at all. I worked 7 years in mental health. I watch people go in and out because of their medications. And so if they need that, that's fine. Transportation's one thing, medication's another. You know, crisis. This is a crisis. Not having their medication is a crisis. It is, and it's expensive these days. Yes, it is. So if we can help in any way, shape, or form there, call us, and we will take care of it.
Yeah, keep in mind that
I'm sorry, Mom,
Go ahead.
we'll fund what I call the methadone program in order to keep people from going to the streets to get their fix and die of fentanyl poisoning. The Ashley Project will get them their weekly medication, keep them on pharmaceutical medication instead of going back into the streets to get their fix.
Sorry, Monty.
who's heard of the acronym NIMBY? It means
Something about national mental health.
nope,
No, am I got it wrong? Sorry.
Not in my backyard.
not in my backyard.
Oh, wow. Wrong one. Right.
That's, you can put that in a nutshell. That's the reason that the mandatory hold part of the mandatory reporting is not being used. It has nothing to do with the law being changed. Nothing. Zero. The law still exists. They simply don't have to. How's that for mental health care?
Right.
So yeah, we are the stopgap, guys. You guys are the gatekeepers. We, as a whole, as the people who are fighting this good fight, are the stopgap. All right. anyone notice something wrong with the dramatization being shown?
She was not had enough emotion.
Not enough emotion, that's a possibility. Anyone else?
Her body language was not severe enough.
Good. It had to do with body language. What about
Eye contact.
it? Eye contact.
Yeah.
Eye contact. You have to understand, most of these people are going to tell you there's something wrong. They're not going to be easily forthcoming. They'll tell you around the story that actually has a truth somewhere in the middle. All right? So I wrote down for my notes a list of things that you might want to watch for and questions you might want to ask. Everyone ready? All right. Let's start with the basics. Do they have their needs met? Do they have their needs met? Food, shelter, clothing.
So you're talking Maslow's hierarchy.
Mm-hmm. Before we start anything, we make sure that they have their needs met. I recently had a telehealth client that was in for court-ordered therapy. Immediately after we started, he lost his housing because the landlord found out he was a felon. It can be as fast as that. Cannot continue until we can find you housing. Let's start with that. Yes?
You said they're not going to kick them out when they found out they had mental health problems. Isn't that covered under the ADA?
No, because they found out he's a felon.
Because he's a felon.
Court-ordered rehab, right? He's a felon. Yeah. Does the client have a support structure? Family, friends. Does the client have a support structure? Is there a particular emergency contact, for example? Is there a particular family member that they trust? Is it church family? Church family is important too. I mean, I have 2 church families now that I just love to be able to say that. I have 2 church families that are actually closer to me than my own family, which is sad in a way. But yeah, I'm really close to both of my church families. I love it. That's fantastic. Does the client have any safe friends? Maybe it's the family that's the problem. Okay, do you have any safe friends? You can't go home. Okay, I understand that. If they don't have an emergency contact, they don't have a safe home, they don't have a safe friend, guess who that leaves? You. You may end up being the emergency contact. Are you good with that? Someone was just talking about toxic relationships. I should probably put a side note on that. Some of these people that you're going to talk to will have attachment issues. Attachment issues basically means that they are either A, avoidant of attachments, incredibly avoidant, sometimes to the point of anger, or fearful of losing attachments. In other words, they're clingy. They'll do anything to keep an attachment. They'll do anything to keep the attachment communication going. They will talk your ear off. They will text you at all hours of the day and night. All the more reason to quickly pass them off to a professional. Because believe me, if you want stress, that'll give you stress. Actually, I had a client that told me, I'm going to stop texting you. I said, okay. No, I really am. Okay. Unless I really need you. You got it. You will get those. Have fun with it. Have they already experienced professional help? Some of these people are not going to want to go to professional help because of the first experience. Their first experience was so horrible. Again, this goes back to, is the person you're referring this person to going to be the right fit or even close? Get to know the professionals. I mean, okay, here's a stereotype for you. And it's a very weird stereotype to me as a male counselor, but you don't send a rape victim to male counselors.
Amen. We have no sane nurses in this county. None. Well, no, that's not true. We have two. I'm sorry.
What'd she say?
Sexual assault nurses. We have no, there's nothing in this area that helps our sexually assaulted victims.
No, there's in Montezuma County, I should say, which it has to stay for court.
Which brings us back to know the professional. There may not be sufficient counselors in Montezuma County for rape victims, period. There may not be. As simple as that. Now, here's why I call it a stereotype. Believe it or not, because of secure attachment issues, I'm going to call it issues. Okay, this is supposed to be the healthy version. Because of secure attachment issues with the victim's father, they may want a male counselor. Do what the client wants, not what you believe is the best for the client. Do highly recommend a female counselor. I'm not saying don't, but in the end, if they would feel more comfortable with a male counselor, so be it. And I guarantee you, there is not one man who has been raped who will want to go see a male counselor. Period. Not one. Doesn't matter how secure a relationship you have with his father. Does it surprise you that I said that out loud?
No.
Because in Oregon,
Little secret.
yes, exactly. Because in Oregon, until 1994, as I recall, they fought for over a decade to change the rape law to include that, yes, either gender could be raped.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it was an assault and battery. That's it. Men, go lick your wounds. You mentioned eye movement. In other words, there should have been eye movement. They're uncomfortable talking about it. There should not be eye contact that is easily kept. If it's going to be kept at all, it's going to be forced. If it's too easy, there's something else going on. In other words, if they are keeping eye contact,
Master manipulators.
there's either borderline, which is master manipulator, narcissism, possibly a psychotic break, okay? Antisocial behavior, there's going to be a lack of affect in that case. There's a lot of things wrong with that person if they're talking about something that is definitely traumatic and they're making direct eye contact with you the whole time. There's something wrong with that person. All right?
On that same note,
Yeah.
we used to always, if we were asking our clients something that was like very personal, like something like that, we were told not to make eye contact either, to kind of look down at.
Oh, yes, definitely.
So,
For sure. Definitely break eye contact yourself. Okay? Do not do a staring contest. That's a good point. Thank you. Okay? Do not, in other words, don't make them feel uncomfortable by staring at them. Same reason. Maybe your counselor is antisocial. Maybe your counselor is psychotic. Okay? Same reason. All right.
They do say they're in there a lot in the psychiatry room.
You don't have to be crazy at work here, but it helps. It is actually semi-true. Most people who go into counseling, or especially substance use counseling, I keep calling it substance abuse counseling, that's not right. Substance use counseling, are going through something themselves, or in the case of substance use, are recovered addicts.
Well, they understand.
Notice how I just said that. Recovered addicts. I did not say they are not addicts anymore. I said they're recovered addicts. Why is that? Excuse me. Why did I? Nope, can't say why. What is the reason for that?
Because they can understand that person.
What's that?
They can understand where they're coming from.
Yeah, but what makes them a recovered addict?
Once an addict, always an addict. An addict always has the ability to relapse. But you have to work your recovery every day to keep yourself on the right track, to stay out of that mindset, because anybody has the ability to relapse.
Thank you, Webster's Dictionary. Once an addict, always an addict. Okay? You will still have that tendency. You may pass it on to another addiction. By the way, my name is Monty Pescador, and I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Monty.
I started in the bottle pretty much before freshman year started, 1988, and I didn't get back out of the bottle until 2007.
Wow, good job.
And moving back to Montezuma County, I'll tell you what, everywhere you look, it's like, ugh, I can make it. Every day, though. I mean, we got liquor stores, we got bars, we got on the shelves in Farmington, and, you go to the Sam's Club, you don't expect to find alcohol, but it's there. And I have to do the same thing. It's the same thing as I do. I'm sorry, ladies. Same thing I do with advertisements and women. I have to look away. Wandering eye, right? Once an addict, always an addict. You have to work at it every single day, every single hour. So, yes, the addict that has recovered can identify with, can empathize with, there's that word again, empathize, the addict in recovery. That's actually part of the reason I ended up with my first internship being at Harvest Farm in Wellington. It's a ministry of Denver Rescue Mission. It's all men's recovery effort. Free. Long waiting list, I should add. 2-year program, minimum. So if you have a particularly difficult person that is trying to recover from addiction, consider Harvest Farm, but do know there's a waiting list, and it's a long one.
Is that inpatient?
Inpatient, you live there, you work there.
is that the one they just had their article on in the journal?
I don't know, I didn't see it. Of course, I barely read the news as it is.
They said they I tried to start one for one too.
Really?
Yeah, it was an online article. I seen it like 2 or 3 days ago.
I'd heard rumors. I didn't know that had come out. That's fascinating. That's much great. If they can spread out more of those, that'd be fantastic. Yes?
Another high success rate place to go was any teen challenge.
Ooh, yes. Thank you.
Women, they have them for young people.
Mhm.
Yeah, teen challenge.
Teen Challenge.
They have like a 95% rate of.
Do realize that when it comes to addiction, recidivism, in other words, coming back to it rate, is usually pretty high, unfortunately. Can anyone tell me what the reasoning of that is?
It's who your friends are, a lot of it. You have
That's
to-
one big one.
You gotta get new friends.
That's a big one. Environment is a big one. What else?
Support system,
Part of the system.
comfortability.
That's the big one. Okay? They're trying to comfort an itch they can't scratch. That's the best way to put it. It's an analogy. They know there's something wrong up here. Up here is nothing but a chemical factory. I mean, there's other chemical factories, but this is the big one. Okay? And if that chemical factory is producing the wrong chemicals at the wrong time, it doesn't feel right. But that person doesn't necessarily know how to set it right from there. So they start trying things. That's really the gateway drug. That feeling up here. It's not right, so I'm going to try something to make it feel right. That's the gateway drug. It's not alcohol, it's not marijuana, it's here. This is the start. And then they say, oh, well, that almost worked on some things, not on others. I'm going to try something else. And that's where it escalates. I remember God making sure, A, that I knew He was there, which was annoying, and B, making sure I couldn't get sick on alcohol. That was the worst part of being an alcoholic. The logical side was going, what's going on? I can drink and drink and drink. I don't puke, I don't die, and I'm still thinking about the thing I'm trying to forget about. What is going on? And I hear this light snickering in the background. You're doing this to yourself. Right? Not really snickering, but you get the picture. I could feel that tension between I should be feeling this, I should be feeling better, I should be thinking straighter, I should be forgetting this problem. And still wanting to drink because that's the obvious solution. But it wasn't. Yes?
Well, how much of it too has to do with going back in the same environment that caused you to escape it?
Again, it goes back to environment, right?
You don't feel much comfortable, you know, consistent.
It really depends on what's causing the problem to begin with, more than the chemical dependency itself. The chemical dependency is secondary, believe it or not. You can get that person off of that drug, off of alcohol. It won't matter if the person still doesn't feel right. Okay, how about this? So we're talking about eye contact. Does anybody know what this would mean? Well, I thought about doing this. What's the guy doing?
Avoiding.
Not just avoiding. Why is his eye going that way? He's trying to come up with a story, right? Down and left, down and right. Those are usually indicators, especially if they're repeated on one side only, that they're trying to think through something. Not remember something, think it through. So they could be avoiding. It could also be lying. It's not usually discomfort. Discomfort's usually straight down. That's discomfort. Typically. Remember, I'm talking about typically. Okay. All you substance use counselors out there, how about this one? Well, you know, sometimes I think about it, yeah. It's like that. You've done that before, right? Yeah. Who's that? That's Colorado's current favorite drug. Marijuana.
What was that?
Marijuana. Marijuana makes you not feel bad. And so you always have this really ridiculous grin on your face, but not really, paying attention to what's going on. Forced smile. Yeah, I'm doing great. No problem.
I figure you're hard right now.
No. Right. There's a difference, right? No, it's like you got this twitch that you can't seem to get rid of, and you're just trying to smile and make yourself look like you're happy, and you're really not. But you can still see it in the eyes. And for Caucasians in particular, I should say this, because I do that, and I go full out Japanese. For some bizarre reason, I've noticed, this is my experience with clients, Caucasians tend to go like this. Hey, how you doing? It's like, I can never do that. It hurts. All right. Again, we go back to non-emotional. Right? No affect, or low affect, is what they call that. Be warned, this could be a number of different things. Do not make any assumptions. Shock can be no affect. So it's not just antisocial behavior, it's not just certain drugs, it's not just a psychotic episode. It could be a stroke of all you know.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know how I feel about that. Kind of hard to feel anything right now, Things have been hard lately. So I guess I should be feeling bad. I don't know. It was good seeing her again, and yet it hurt really good, too. I don't know how I feel about that. Flat affect is a danger sign in general, but it could be a really bad thing, and it could just mean a bad thing. Trauma can be a big factor. Okay, professional help, right there. With tics, well, I thought I was over it. Is there a chemical problem? Is there a physical problem? Okay. Very basic one. Keeps turning away. Do we have to talk about this? Very uncomfortable, right? Very, very uncomfortable. That's the number one thing we can pretty much agree on. There's very few reasons other than the possible physical tics that would explain completely turning away and staying that way. Believe it or not, lying is not one of them. Because lying, they want you to believe. So they're going to make at least a little eye contact. Not enough to make them freak out, because they're going to think they're on to me. But there will be enough eye contact for them to believe that they've tricked you. Looking completely away means they are very uncomfortable with something. And it's not necessarily something they've said yet. All right. Here's probably the hardest one that I can tell you from experience. The most tough. Words matter. What they say, exactly how they say it, matters. Even if it's the so-called Freudian slip, it matters. Because something in their head told them to say it. They can treat it like a joke, like a slip of the tongue, but there was something about what they said that matters to the conversation. One of my clients, a long time ago, good recovery, he would talk constantly about his job. Over and over again. So any session we went through, it was about a particular rescue operation for California Search and Rescue. Yeah, the radio would go off, and I would go off, going down the road or going over to the airport to get on the helicopter, and there I would go again. Only to be too late, have to pick up bodies. Then I'd go home and I'd drink. And the radio would go off again. After about 5 days of hearing about the radio, I did a random word association based on all of the different words that he seemed to repeat a lot of. Radio was number 3 on the list. I kind of figured it was going to be a hit. But I didn't want him to just blurt it out right there. I wanted him to know what he was saying. And what came to mind immediately when I said the word. All right. Beach. Body. Water. Rescue. Radio. Oh, wow. It was always there by my bar. A whole set of radios. And I was just sitting there waiting for it to go off, and there was nothing else to do, so I drank. Words matter. Pay very close attention to what they are saying. If they start repeating things, that's a biggie. If they say something odd and try to pass it off as a joke, that could be a big clue. My most current telehealth client came in wanting to know if she was schizophrenic. Good news. If you have to ask, you probably aren't. But she does have trauma issues from childhood, and we've been dancing around it ever since. I bet you that just the stereotype will tell you exactly what traumatic issue she's dealing with from childhood. Guess what her profession is? Prostitute. And she hates herself for it. It took me 3 sessions to figure that one out. Actually, technically speaking, it took her taking a trip to somewhere else entirely, to someone else's house, to figure that one out. Who she was being paid to stay with. You see, she likes helping people. She doesn't like people. She especially doesn't like men. But she likes helping people. There's a whole bunch of red flags right there. Be careful and listen what they're saying. Okay, I went way over the time I wanted before I gave you guys something to do. So I'm going to take a small break. I would like you all to talk around your tables this time. What would you do different? With a successful client, with a failed client, doesn't matter. What would you do different? What would you say different? What are the lessons you got from helping that person? Go ahead, we'll give you 15 minutes. But I want to go over one more thing first before we get to that. And then everyone, as you notice, everyone's starting to leave already. Everyone can leave as they like, or stay and ask more private questions or what have you. Does that sound good?
Yep.
All right. So there's a couple of areas that I want to definitely end with before I go into question and answer.
A lot of people said they were gonna, but that's normal.
Here somewhere. There it is. Okay. You'll notice on the note sheet that I have a section in the middle that we sort of skipped called ethics. Wonderful little thing called ethics. And each of you will have a ministry all your own, and we'll have to determine what that code of ethics will look like for your ministry. And it should apply to everyone. Here's the thing that a lot of people don't understand about ethics. Ethics is the letters of the law. In other words, this is what you do. This is what regulates you. This is what everyone understands. Okay? That's why you have it written down. You don't just keep it up here. You have it written down. What is your code of ethics for your ministry going to be? What is your code going to say about mandatory reporting? What is your code going to say about placement with other professionals? What is your code going to say about when to bring in the pastor? What is your code going to say about you? And what you say and do? I told you I started an archery ministry that's already causing waves because I took money from the Lore Foundation for it in order to get it funded. The Lore Foundation has a strictly no religion policy. Turns out so does the farmer's market in Cortez. I was shocked. Because by no religion they mean absolutely nothing that could possibly proselytize in front of our people. Even the slightest possibility is an absolute no-no. It's like, so you're going to judge everyone because they're Christian. Is that it?
Yep.
Guess what?
Prejudice right there.
Yeah, that's it. All right? So as I said, I told the Lower Foundation, I don't care. What I'll do is I'll teach the volunteers at whatever facility that hires me, if they want to, what that life bow actually means, and they can teach it. Me, I'm just teaching archery. thank you very much. That's what I told him. I was not secret about it. But I'm already, I mean, we're not even open yet. We don't even have all the equipment yet. I'm already getting complaints. What is your code of ethics going to say about that?
Who are you getting complaints from?
From the Lord Foundation itself. They're getting private complaints and they're passing them to me.
They gave you a grant?
They give me a grant.
Did your grant say how you could specifically use the money?
Yes.
Have you done that?
Yes.
Then don't worry about it.
Yes.
Right on.
Okay, so.
Thank you for that.
What is your code of ethics going to say
He started to complain about the Lord Foundation.
about religious belief? Same criteria. Center Shot got an email, not Center Shot. Zoom Arrows got an email from a certain church, I won't name names, a certain church in the area asking if I was open to teaching what I call the alphabet soup people.
What does that mean?
LGBT,
Who's in those guys?
QRSTUV, I don't know.
Okay, now I have a way to deal with this. The alphabet, okay? We're just gonna, because they keep changing letters on me.
Exactly. It's hard enough for me to remember.
They're the alphabet people.
Don't get me wrong, it's hard enough for me to remember my own alphabet. After my name comes LPCC, comma, ACMHC.
Oh, man.
Because I have 2 licenses, one in Colorado, one in Utah. So yeah, alphabet soup, I could care less about alphabet soup. Okay?
You want to really make them mad, just say, I'm glad to see you're flying the symbol of God. Thrill. Yes.
Well, I basically told them, hey, I'm here to teach the gospel and archery. Period. Okay? Whatever you want done on your organization's facility, that's fine. That's great. But keep in mind, I'm not trained in it. I'm only trained in archery and the gospel. Hello? You know, so if you expect me to be absolutely perfect, get all my pronouns correct? No, not going to happen. I am going to slip up. It's not a sign of prejudice, guys. I am going to mess things up. Period. Because I'm only there to teach archery and the gospel, not how to pronounce people's names and their genders. You know. But what is your policy going to say? That's the ethics. The morals. Okay, 2 different words. Ethics, morals. Ethics denote the written, call it law, call it regulation, call it whatever. Denote what your organization means. Morals are what the individual people of that organization think of the ethics. In other words, these will always be up to interpretation, the ethics. And these people are going to be the ones that interpret it. So be careful. You do need a code of ethics. You will get whatever you get. Be careful. Make it explicit. Make it exact. The American Association of Christian Counselors has a code of ethics that, in a nutshell, as I put down, has codes about compassion, competence, consent. Counseling needs to be consensual. Confidentiality, there we go again with confidentiality, and the mandatory reporting. Cultural regard. That reminds me, someone passed on during our talk session just now to mention that certain cultures, say, for example, Navajo, won't look at you anyway. They'll just they'll talk like this. right? A lot of cultures have different ways of connecting with people that have nothing to do with the eye contact. They will actually not look at you at all. So don't worry about it. Get the cultural knowledge behind it. That's, again, part of that empathy. If you know the culture, you can be more empathetic to it. If you ignore the culture, it's not going to go away. You just won't be very empathetic to it. Okay, multicultural regard. Case management. I can never pronounce this correctly. Collegiality and community presence.
What does that word mean?
Collegiality?
Yes.
Connectedness.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know why they call it collegiality. I call it connectedness.
Well, it probably has the prefix of collegiate or, yeah, so it means you're kind of equals.
Equals, okay.
Once again, I'm going to ask if you would stand up when you speak so everyone can hear you. What you're asking will inform someone else. Thank you.
All right. But yeah, if you need a copy of that, by the way, I'm not going to print it for you. It is pages long. But I can email it to you. All right. The Code of Ethics from the AACC. Wonderful group. Somebody was asking, let's see if, I think, somebody, was it you that was asking about somebody was asking about the education that I was talking about. That is through the AACC, American Association of Christian Counselors, and Liberty University, Christian University, through a development they call Light University. And yeah, if you are looking for certifications, that's the direction you should probably go. Wonderful, wonderful education. And they update it so regularly, it's hard to keep up. But that's the way the industry is going. If you want something more in-depth than you're ever, I'm sorry to say, you're ever going to get at one of these. Okay, because these are going to be slam as much as I can into them. Make sense? So the next one will probably be more specific to a particular mental health issue of the region. But generally speaking, even that will not be covered in a 3-4 hour lecture. It's just not possible. Not completely.
I would say too, probably learning effective communication, very needy in counseling. I said effective communication. It'll be very, very needy.
Yes.
You know, a lot of us, when we're communicating with people, while they're talking, we're thinking about what we want to answer.
Yes.
And one of the things I learned in my past field was don't try to come up with answers until you know they're done talking. So that you've got as much information as you can.
More than that, don't interrupt. Do not interrupt. It's for some clients, it's like gritting your teeth and bearing it. But don't interrupt. They need to vent. If they're talking that much, they need to vent. Let them vent. I had a client that I only saw once. I only saw once. And it was because of how I ended that session. They went off. I mean, they went off. Okay? The entire session. All the way through the whole thing. Barely took a breath. 50 minutes of this. Thankfully, I did not have a client afterward. 50 minutes, just straight out, straight out, straight out, straight out, straight out. At 52 minutes, she finally looked at me and said, "Aren't you going to ask anything?" And I said, "You needed that." She looked at me, said, yeah, I feel a lot better. And that's the point. You needed someone to talk to. You didn't need me to ask you any questions. You didn't need me to tell you that somehow you needed like antidepressants or anti-anxiety medicines. You needed someone to talk to. That's all. And if you want me to talk to you again, fine. But if that's all you need, you are so healthy compared to most people. She loved that answer. I have not heard from her since. And you will run into those too. Have fun. Okay. But yeah, do have a code of ethics for your ministry. Work with your leaders on that. Make sure that everyone understands it. Everyone signs off on it. Because I tell you what, you don't. We were talking about lawsuits earlier. That's another lawsuit possibility. What do you guys stand for? That won't get you into trouble. Okay, finally. Biggest challenge, I think I've pretty much slammed this into your heads over and over again. Biggest challenge is yourself. What cases would you take? Not just what the professionals would take, what cases would you take? Could you withstand taking suicide ideation? Could you withstand substance use? Could you withstand assault, abuse, sexual harm? Yes?
Monty, one main thing of this whole situation is learning how to be a good listener, regardless what your nationality or your language is.
Absolutely.
If you need an interpreter, enter that. But if we're going to be frustrated with them, they feel that.
Yes.
And then they will go any further of expressing themselves.
Yeah. Don't say, oh, I can handle it. Don't say that. If you really don't feel good about taking certain cases, don't. Simply don't. Don't put it on yourselves. Okay? Me, I'll be honest. I will take anybody. Reason? Existential counselor. I loves the story. Me loves every story that comes in the door. I could listen for hours to everybody's reality. That's a gift. I love a good story. I love a bad story. I love reinterpreting the story from a different perspective.
We need compassion too.
Compassion.
Godly compassion.
Again, code of ethics. Okay, code of ethics. Do no harm. Do good, but do no harm. Oh, and again, I put down as an example, attachment issues. Let me repeat that one, because I already mentioned it once. There will be the clingy ones. If you're not comfortable with that thought, don't take them. Pass them on quickly. And most of all, watch yourself. Have a supervisor, an advisor, have a counselor, have somebody you can turn to, because you will burn out, guaranteed. Me, Terry and I were joking. I kind of have, because of the long COVID, I kind of have a little bit of ADHD myself. And so I tend to do a lot of things all at once. Badly.
You never had that before?
No. I used to multitask with passion and pleasure. Now it's like pulling teeth, and I still can't do anything good.
You were ADHD before COVID.
Oh, Mary, let's judge somebody.
Nope. I just played one on TV. No, you heard that it's a myth that you can actually multitask? What you do when you're multitasking is you're doing several things all at once, not well. So there's ADHD that's like that, where you're taking pleasure in it, right? Where you think you're doing great, and sometimes you can even get away with it. But in my case, I probably was doing okay because my IQ was slightly higher back then, and now my IQ is slightly lower than average. And so now it's like pulling teeth, and I'm still, what do I do next? What do I do next? What do I do? And I forget what projects I'm doing. Okay? But that means I also do several ministries all at once. And I have trouble saying no. Know when to say no. Simple as that. And know when to get help. Simple as that. Don't be too prideful. Be humble in your work. This is God's work you're doing. To heal the masses is God's work. Let the Spirit guide you. If the Spirit says, no, this one's yours, even though you're uncomfortable, do it. If the Spirit, however, does not guide you to that person, you better double think it if you are uncomfortable. Because there are going to be times when your pride will say, oh no, I can do this. But the Holy Spirit doesn't say a word. Because the Holy Spirit's looking at you going, okay, yeah, you go ahead and do that. Let's see how that goes. That's how it works, people. God puts stuff in your path because you have the possibility, but you have to make the choice. The ones He would like, He's going to tell you. The ones, maybe it might not be in your best interest, you have the choice. Choose well. Any questions? Did not expect that silence.
Go ahead and ask a question. I know you want to.
Not necessarily a question so much as, like you were talking about, some people, when you experience things, when you start counseling, we noticed with some of our counselors, sometimes you have a tendency, if you're talking to somebody about the same thing that you went through, say, I know what you're feeling, I know what you're going through, and that's a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
Because even if I've gone through the same thing you have, we're different people. So I don't know, and that's one thing we have to keep in mind is, we may think, but we don't, that everybody's different, everybody's an individual. So let them tell their story and put yourself in it.
Yeah. You will quickly learn to talk it differently. There's commonality in conversations that you have. Oh, how are you doing? Oh, I'm doing great. No problem. Are you lying? Yeah. All right? Be careful what you say. Words do matter. If you've never actually experienced that person's trauma, don't say that you feel what they do. You don't. You don't fully understand it until you've actually done it. Okay? And believe me, you don't want to. But you do want to have empathy. Still. I can empathize with what you're going through, but I don't fully understand. Could you tell me more? I'm sorry if this hurts you, but I really want to understand. That's empathy. Right?
I just want your advice on something. So I knew somebody who was threatening suicide, and they were intoxicated.
Okay.
I called the police to do a welfare check. They refused to do it because they said, does this person have access to firearms? And I said, yes. not go because they didn't want to turn into a suicide by cop. What do you do then?
Again, that's a lawsuit. That's illegal to them, okay? But it's true. It's true. They will refuse a call that directly says, guess what? This person not only wants to kill themselves, they have a gun, and they'll probably, and so, you know, all they have to do is point it at you and you'll shoot, won't you? They're absolutely right. It happens all the time. Let me ask you a question. You're talking to them on the phone, I presume? I want to talk to you personally, you know, not over the phone. Would you shoot me if I came in?
Well, I needed to leave the situation that was volatile to me.
Okay. Why so? How so?
Just because of the relationship.
Do I dare ask? Or
It was
you?
my ex-husband, so, yeah.
Gotcha. Counselors, do not heal thyself. No family members, no friends. Pass it off to someone else.
But who, that's what I'm asking.
See, that's why we need, in my opinion, okay, this is just my opinion. There is an 800 hotline for suicide, right? That's somebody far off, some big operator base. We need somebody here operating such a base 24 hours a day. That takes money, it takes volunteers, it takes work. Sorry, did I mention I have ADHD? Well, it just occurred to me. Lore Foundation, those wonderful people that gave us the money for the bows and everything, they are looking for people looking for grants. If we knew somebody, anybody, who would be willing to head that up as the business manager aspect of Ashley Project, to fund an operator center, at least as a startup, we might be able to get a grant for that. If the startup is less than $10,000, by the way, it's almost guaranteed they'll give it within a week. And that sounds like a project they would really want to back.
Wait, this is the same one that is doing, so there's going to be the limitations of the Christian.
The anti-religion thing, yeah. That's the only downside, but what I'm saying is that that's a necessary function that hasn't been in this area, and that maybe we need to develop it anyway, even if we have to go secular.
Yeah,
which is
but
dumb.
in saying that, like, to even get to somebody to listen to you about your faith,
Yeah.
you're going to have a connection with them.
Yes.
So if somebody's calling you in a crisis, you're not going to start preaching at them. You're going to try to help them and
Thank
build
you.
a connection.
Exactly. As I said, I'm here to teach archery. If they happen to want to know about the lifeboat, hey, it's, you know.
Absolutely.
Lore Foundation can try to tell us not to do certain things with their grant money. But the fact of the matter is, if you're a believer, you're a believer. It's going to come out. Okay. So on paper, that operator function, that operator office would be secular. Whether or not the volunteers are secular, that's a whole problem. But that's something to consider. All we would need is somebody willing to head it up.
Well, who in this room would volunteer their time if you had that project available right now?
Who would volunteer their time to be on that ooh. Okay. So we already have operators standing by. I like it. I like it. It's a fantastic idea. Because going to do the mandatory 72-hour hold, that's up to us. The locals aren't going to interrupt a crime, an actual crime. Suicide is a crime, by the way. Inaction. I'm afraid it's up to us.
I agree.
No one to say no, but also no one to say yes. That takes prayer, that takes faith, and hopefully, that is what will bring this community back together. Because Montezuma County can survive this. It's an epidemic of worldwide proportions. This county can survive it.
It's not just this county.
Right.
Colorado has a very high suicide rate.
I think it was Newsweek that recently posted that there's a statistic out. It is the highest suicide rates you'll find in the mountain states and in rural territories. And guess what Montezuma County is? Yeah, rural part of a mountain state. So yeah, we have the worst of both worlds.
I think the last statistic I read was Colorado historically rates out of 50 states per capita, number 10 in death by suicide in the United States.
That's right.
And at one point, this county, Montezuma County,
the top 10 in the country is Colorado. At one point, the top 5 counties in Colorado, Montezuma was one of them. We're not currently in the top 3, which is good news. Last I checked. Okay, it's not great news. We have a battle to win. The battle is against the liar. Here I go, onto the divinity side. The battle is against the liar. We have the world yelling at us lies about ourselves, about our looks, about who we should be, and we're expected to live up to it. Or down to it, depending on which way you look at it. And that's what we're fighting. And we wonder why people are depressed, why people are anxious. There's no asking why. We know why people are depressed. We know why people are anxious. The world wants us that way. The liar wants us that way.
Amen. Somebody had to say, thank you.
Amen to that.
Well, I can remember when I was doing some courses in my degree, one of the things they were talking about is the fact that when society becomes less structured, suicide rates really shoot up because we need guidance, we need boundaries. Of course, if it's too tight too, it has the same effect. But the less structure you have, the more violence there is towards yourself and towards others. And if you look at our society nowadays, everything's good. You can't count on anything. You know, or you're, as a society, I mean, we as individuals have our guidance and our beliefs, but as a society as a whole, they're going to tell you that your beliefs and guidance are wrong anyway, because you're supposed to be more good. And I think that's one of the big reasons we're seeing all these problems.
On that note, here's a question for you. Which country states that it has one of the lowest crime rates in the world, and yet it's a lie?
Finland? Finland?
Close.
Sweden?
Switzerland.
Boy, I hear a couple of very close. Newfoundland. Or not,
You mean Canada?
no, I mean Netherlands. Netherlands.
Oh, that's a total lie.
Yeah, Netherlands.
How addicted they are?
Oh, it gets better. The reason they fudge those numbers, here's how they fudge the numbers. There are a number of places within the Netherlands that are called red districts.
What?
No emergency personnel are allowed in. They're not allowed to go there. You get an emergency call for one of the red zones, you're not allowed to go. Period.
That's the high Muslim areas.
No.
It's prostitution and drugs. Yeah, major tourist route.
I can remember an article, reading an article too, though, on a lot of the European countries, because of these areas came together and they have a high rate of violence.
That would be too.
They weren't allowed to go in there.
The red districts are high sin areas. They are the Las Vegas of that country, only without any rules, without any law. Now imagine Las Vegas, but without any law at all.
Be New York?
Ouch! Ouch! So yeah, there's that side of leniency, right? You're too lenient, things are going to go worse. You're too strict, things are going to go worse. So it doesn't matter if it is the Netherlands or
New York.
okay, or a dictatorship. And the cultures are going to be different. Japan has the highest unreported suicide rate in the world.
Oh, really?
The highest unreported.
How did they hide?
Why? Because after every single senior year testing, which is required by Japanese law, there are going to be a lot of teenagers killing themselves for not getting into the college they were supposed to based on family tradition. Simple as that. Every culture has its idiosyncrasies. Ours just happens to be chaos. We're letting the world take over. The world takes over our thoughts. Satan takes over our thoughts. Don't let him. Don't let the liar win.
Amen.
Because we have a mission to do.
Yes, Lord.
I'm counting on each and every one of you. Thank you for having me. God bless you.